Hi guys, this is Keith Blackburn with Alert 3. Welcome to our first video tutorial on the ARFF interactive board. In this video, we're going to look at the main window in the software. Now to begin with, let's talk about screen resolution. At a minimum, you should be running at least 1360 by 768 resolution. Now with my computer, I usually run it at 1920 by 1080. Also, make sure that your hardware will support at least that minimum resolution. Now I already have the software up and running and I've got it minimized, so let's go ahead and maximize that. And the first screen that you're going to see after you start the software is going to be the ARFF interactive board splash screen. And from here we can do a number of things. Under Actions, we can create a new project. Underneath that, we can load an existing project that's been saved on your computer. And underneath that, we have the About button. From here, you can learn a little bit more about Alert 3 and check out our webpage. On the right side, recent projects. These are really projects that you've been working on, and when you save them, they will auto-populate this box right here. And really, this is for quick access to those projects. Alternatively, we could just go over to Load Project and search the hard drive and find the file and then load it up. This is just a little bit more quick access to those projects. Let's go ahead and demo that. Now once we bring that in, we can continue editing this image, or we can do a presentation with this image. But for the tutorial here, we are just concerned with the main window, the associated tools and panels in here, and so we're going to just briefly cover that stuff. And we'll get into content creation on a different tutorial. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's bring up a blank image here in this window. All right. So now once we get to this main window right here, you can see that it's got tools across the top. We've got panels around the outside, and there's a big gaping white hole right here in the middle with no image in it. So let's talk about importing file formats for this background. You're going to want to have an image of your airfield, a small section of it, or a larger section, or a drawing in this area here. So the three file formats you can import in are going to be a JPEG file formatted image. You can have a PNG file formatted image, or you can have an SVG or a vector graphic file formatted image. All right. Now, to talk about import sizes. All right. So maximum import size that you're going to want to have is 2048 by 2048. That's the maximum import file size to import in. You can go smaller, but just don't go larger than 2048 by 2048. Okay. Now let's talk about the main window control buttons across the top here that are tools. And as we do that, let's start out by saying that if I can express upon you this one thing here in this video, and that is that this software runs in two modes. You have a construction mode where you can prepare for class, and then you have a presentation mode. And you're going to find those two modes expressed in these two buttons right here. All right, and to be precise, this pause button is going to be the pause edit mode. That's the construction mode. When you're in pause, you can do construction. When you're in the play mode here, you're going to be in the presentation. So play presentation mode. So these are the two modes. And to go along with that, if you want to select anything in the screen and touch and manipulate it, you need to have this select tool, or the official name is the object edit mode. I just call it select mode for quick and easy remembrance. You have to have that on and lit up green in order to touch and manipulate anything in this screen. That is for use inside the pause edit or the construction mode, or the play present button here. You can use that in that mode as well. So you might find yourself in a different tool if you're unable to click on anything in here with the mouse. All right. So let's go ahead and talk about, let's start over here on this side and then we'll finish up and go across here. All right, so the first button here, this is your file options menu right here, and from here you can create a new project, you can load a project, you can save that project, you can save a copy or save as, change the file name of it, or you can print the image right here. All right, and inside that window you can also save it as a PDF file for future use. And then finally at the bottom of that we've got the right back to the splash screen there. Okay, now over here we have the settings window. All right, so notice I clicked on that little cog there. That's a settings window there, and this comes up. So now alternatively, to get this to come up, there's more than one way to do that. In the file options right here, you can hit new. And when you do that, this will come up, new. All right. Now what this window really wants to know is it wants to know what the background image is going to be underneath the aircraft. And to do that, you're going to click on custom background, and that will take you to the library or a series of ways to import in images. All right. And once that's in here, and you're going to see it back here, it is going to be in the background in the main canvas area. All right. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to size that image in here to match the aircraft that are supplied in the software, and it's going to match the vehicles that are supplied in the software. And you're only going to need to size it one time. And once you've sized it, you're going to click on the locked button here and lock it up so that from here on out it's always going to be set at that size. So how do we size it? Underneath this aircraft you have a scale, a 200-foot scale, and it's in 25-foot increments. All right, and you're going to lay this aircraft, you can rotate this aircraft, and you're going to find a runway. All right, or a similar aircraft, and you can size it that way too. And then the width of the runway is going to be running that. This is the width, okay? And then you're going to scale it using the mouse wheel, or you're going to use the slider right here, and you'll see the background zoom in and zoom out. All right, so now most of the larger airports are either going to have a 150-foot runway or a 200-foot runway, I'm finding. So you can scale it either to this, excuse me, this setting here or the next tick in. And I usually put this center tick right on the runway center line, and then I scale it. Once you scale it, just lock it in, and then you're good to go. All right. Now we'll talk a little bit more about this later, and I'll demo this in a future tutorial. Over here we've got some drive modes for moving the vehicles, and we'll talk about that in a future tutorial also. So you get the picture on the settings window. This is what's going to be happening here. All right. Now the next button, next two buttons are buttons that you should be familiar with if you operate a computer. We have the undo button and the redo button. So if you build something out here and maybe the last couple of moves that you do you're unhappy with, you can just undo it and revert back to the way it was before you added those items. Or if once you do that you decide, hey, I kind of did like it better that way, you can just revert it and redo it there. All right, so those are easy buttons to know. Now the next button here is the maximize screen button. So you'll notice we have the Windows toolbar across the bottom here, and we can hit that, and that will maximize the image in here. All right, and take that out. Now for the next button, I'm going to bring in an ARFF truck. I'm going to zoom it in a little closer. I'm using the mouse wheel, by the way. All right, and let's say that I want to name this vehicle, and I want that name tag to stay with this vehicle. So right now I'm going to click on that, highlight it, and I'm going to type in red 24. Maybe that's the name of our vehicle. So I'm going to click off of the vehicle, and then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to hit that button, and that's going to put the tag of the vehicle right on there. All right, so if I zoom out, or zoom in, that will always stay that. So you stay with that. So you can have 3 or 4 or 5, 6 vehicles out here, and you can have the name tags on the vehicles. All right. Now the next one is going to be called toggle vehicle paths. So the keyword is path. You can see a little dashed line there on that tool there. So let's go ahead and let's move this over. I'm going to minimize these for right now. And let's go ahead and put it in play mode. And let's say that you were going to move from point A to point B, and we want to take the long road around to do that. So in the classroom, I can do this using a mouse, or if you have a touch screen and you want to invite one of your audience members up to the front of the classroom, and they can tap on the vehicle, and there's a little blue marker there. They can just drag that, and that will follow the path that I just created. Okay, so that's going to be one way of moving that vehicle. All right. So now for that next mode, that next button there, if I want to have a pathway behind that vehicle, I can click on it, and now that vehicle will leave a path behind it. So why would I want to do that? Well, we can revisit the path that they got from point A to point B. Maybe that pathway went through the smoke of an aircraft fire, and you want to revisit that and talk to them, and maybe they can give you some answers about why they drove through that area. Or you can express it to them, you know, about the safety about not driving through smoke. So that's a nice little tool to have. Now the next button here, this is toggle motion freeze for vehicles. All right, so let's click on that, and now if I drag that vehicle, you'll see a dashed line in front of the vehicle, and that's the pathway for that. Let's go ahead and let's add another vehicle into this scenario. And let's have another firefighter or student come up to the front of the classroom, and they're going to drive another pathway. And I guarantee you this is going to be fun. It's going to involve your audience to have them come up to the front of the classroom and to do this. You know, so you can do it by using a touch screen, or you can do it using a mouse like I'm using right now. So once they draw lines to their vehicle positions, you can unfreeze it. And I still have the path set on, so you can still see their driving paths. And those vehicles will move. And I guarantee you they will have a good time. You'll encourage audience participation by having them come up and help. Okay, now let's see. We've already talked about the play, present, and the pause edit buttons. We've talked about the selection tool here. And we're going to talk about the pan mode button over here. In order to do that, I'm going to bring in an image. All right, so you can see it actually pan a little bit better. So let's go ahead and go to settings, custom backgrounds. Let's find a background. Let's go to Albany here. And let's close that, and we've already got it locked in, so it's good to go. And I'm going to hit finished. All right, and selection tool, click on the vehicle. I'm going to make sure I'm in the construction mode here for a minute. I'm going to delete that out. You cannot delete vehicles out while you're in the play present mode, by the way. And let's go ahead and scroll out and find a location that we can do some work on. Let's do it right here. And let's add, just for fun, let's add an aircraft. We're going to set it right there, and let's add a vehicle. just to make it interesting too. Let's just put them right in the middle there. All right, so now we've got our scene set up here. Maybe I want to talk about something that's going on down at another junction with another taxiway down here. So I'm going to hit the pan tool, and I can pan down, and I can look at that. If I want a bigger image, I can just use the mouse wheel and scroll out, pan around, look at the whole airfield, come over here to the terminal concourse. So you get the picture with the pan tool. That's what you can do, is you can move it around. So, all right, now the next group of buttons here all deal with the pen tool. All right, so I'm going to click on that pen tool, and maybe we have a fire right here. So it's good for annotating. I do have ways of making fire, and we'll show that here in a minute. But you can annotate a fire right there. You can change the color of it and annotate evacuation. Maybe somebody's coming off the wing as well. You can do that. You can set up a treatment area, a transportation area, helicopter zone. You can set up where your buses are going to be. You know, where if you've got a command bus, you can set up a command bus. Whatever you want to do. You can talk this whole thing and draw on it, and it's really cool. And you can use your finger. Right now, of course, I'm using the mouse, but on touch screen, you can use your finger with this. Now, this button right here is the eraser tool, and I can erase this stuff using the eraser tool. And one note about the eraser tool, it ties in with the line width for the pen tool. So if I want a fatter line, let's say I draw a little thicker line, the eraser tool is going to be larger as well. All right. Now alternatively, I could just hit the undo button as well. Okay. All right, so you get the picture right here, all right? And we know what these are right now, and now we're going to look at the panels. All right, now the first panel over here is your fire control panel. This is where you're going to add fires. All right. Now I can name this fire by clicking on that. I could do it here, or I can name it over here as well. But let's say I wanted to have a left wing fire. So I named it. Now it's left wing over here. I want to set the wind direction straight down the runway. I'm going to add some wind, and there we have it right there. I'm in the construction mode there, so I can click on that toolbar. This is actually called a widget toolbar, and it has a lot of different little things on it. We'll talk about that in a future tutorial, but we can move it right here using the move tool. All right, go back to play present. The little marker leaves here, and now we just have this. All right. Okay, so you get the picture here. As I add more fires to this, add another fire, add another fire. Notice they stay in order. The first one is on the bottom, and then they each add on top of that. And you can rename these fires here. All right. Now you can manipulate these from right here, and you can change how the fire is looking. You can turn it off. You can go straight to smoke with those as well right there. And this can be done on the fly during your tabletop that you're doing. All right. Okay, now the bottom here is the wind direction. All right, so that panel, you can adjust the wind direction to whatever direction you want. And that can change the whole scenario, right? Going to change all positioning around the aircraft by doing that. Here's your the wind speed right here. And you know, I can't say that this is super accurate, but it does give you an idea of the wind speed. And usually I just eyeball it when I'm making mine, and how far back do I want the smoke to be trailing there. All right, now we have a layers box here. That's a little more advanced, so we'll save that for a future tutorial. Just know that everything that you add on this screen has its own layer. All right, and if you want something underneath, like a fire under the wing, you can highlight that fire and you can toggle it to go under the wing. All right, so you can, or have people on top of the wing versus under the wing. So you get the picture right there with that, and we'll talk about that in another tutorial. Now over here we have our ARFF assets panel. All right, it comes with 3 files. The first one being vehicles, the second one being aircraft, and the third one is an other section, which is basically miscellaneous items in here. All right. Now this is the object control panel, and everything that you add here, with the exception of fires, will be added into this here, and they all go into their own layers. But the first item that you add in is going to be on the bottom. Let's go ahead and we'll add a hot zone, we'll add a warm zone, we'll add a label, and notice that each one goes on an upper layer right there. So again, we can change those layers and move them around, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on another tutorial. Okay, so we can hide those. So we talked about all the panels, talked a little bit about fires in there. We talked about the main window control buttons and their purposes. We talked about the background here, and again we'll revisit this stuff in other tutorials. We just wanted to get you clear on what the main window is and how the different tools that are in here and panels that go around it. All right. And we also talked about the 2 modes of operation right here. Remember, what are they called? They're called play present and pause edit. Our selection tool here. All right. Settings, file, undo, redo, maximize button, toggle the tags on the vehicles. This one is for pathways. This is motion freeze for the vehicles. And actually, this one adds in when you add a hot zone. If you click on it, that hot zone will show up. So that button's not there all the time, but because I added it, it shows itself right there. All right. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope you come back and see some of our other tutorials. And we hope to hear from you. Let us know how things are going with you, and we'll talk to you on the next tutorial. Have a nice day.